One thing I'm very curious about is that we're starting to see some of these infrastructural failings
Mm,
in, for example, European countries. We actually had a case where a
right.
power station near Heathrow Airport in London went out, and half of London and several airports actually had to ground their flights, and there was no
Mm,
electricity. And there's a sort of growing interest in what is the most sort of under acknowledged or most significant infrastructural failing in South Africa, because a lot of people
mm.
outside of it see this as um, a template for the future, I suppose.
Mm, absolutely. I mean, it's South Africa tells you a lot about the nature of collapse. So a lot of people think about collapse as something that is akin to like an explosive going off or a bomb going off, but that's not how collapse works. Collapse happens little by little. Like every day, your country is 0.1% worse than the day before. You don't wake up one morning in a collapsed country or a collapsed system. That's a bit of the simplified idea that you often find online of people talking about the end of their society or this apocalyptic collapse that happens one day, just like immediately. But that's not how it works. It's one extra piece of graffiti on the road that you walk to work. It's an old lady getting mugged on a street where she was usually safe to walk down. It's a gravestone that's been vandalized. That's what collapse looks like. All these little cracks just accumulating and accumulating on top of each other. And infrastructure in South Africa is particularly where you see this come to the fore. I mean, I've mentioned the electricity crisis, but it's all the infrastructure. It's not just electricity, it's the road infrastructure, it is the bridges, it is the sewage infrastructure, it's the water infrastructure. I mean, South Africa is currently entering, to add insult to injury, a water crisis where our water infrastructure all across the country just can't support the population anymore. An increasing amounts of communities are suffering water outages, water that's not fit for human consumption. We've had major incidents over the past few years as well of communities, the water quality getting so bad that you have mass deaths of people getting cholera and all these horrible diseases from drinking water because the infrastructure is just collapsing, the water infrastructure, government induced collapse of the infrastructure because the authorities just aren't maintaining this infrastructure, and the population keeps growing, so you just have this increase in pressure on an infrastructure that's like decades old. So, and specifically sewage as well, there's major problems. A lot of sewage is just being dumped into our rivers and dams and into nature here in South Africa because there's just not enough plants to refine it, or to clean it. So that's, again, I think the thing that South Africa teaches you about collapse is that it is not something that happens overnight. It's not something that happens suddenly. It is just increasingly you notice the quality of the society around you starts deteriorating just little by little. And increasingly socially, you realize South Africanization entails your country also just increasingly becoming lower and lower trust society in regards to the type of behaviors that you notice around you just start deteriorating morally as well, and that's one of the memes that I often mock a lot of people in America and the United States with is that whenever their social ills just keep increasing, and at one point they're going to have to make peace with the fact that they are now living in a low trust society. They better start believing in low trust societies. You're living in one.
Oh yeah, don't I know it? It's very much getting that way in Britain as well. Certainly parts of it, and I think that people took a lot for granted, both in South Africa and Europe and North America, that things would always stay that way, and it's not necessarily the case. But
Yeah, and it's a
Zo-
simple criteria for what a low trust society is. A low trust society means that if a stranger, this is not some scientific gauge, it's just my own little gauge, is that you know you live in a low trust society when a stranger approaches you in the supermarket or in the street or in a safe environment, let's say in a supermarket, and your first instinct is to think, why are they beelining for me? Are they trying to exploit me in any way? Are they trying to hoodwink me in any way? Are they trying to harm me in any way? Then you know you are in a low trust society. When someone approaches you directly, a stranger, and your default instinct is not a positive one, but a negative one, a negative association with the stranger. That then you know you're in a low trust society.
Seems perfectly reasonable to me because, of course, a key component of trust is feeling safe, and if your initial reaction is to feel threatened, then it must be that, surely. So zooming out a considerable amount here, what do you think of the ANC seemingly further aligning itself with countries like Iran, China, and Russia, and the recent conflict with the United States and the West more
So
generally,
there's
I
a
suppose?
Right. There's a fascinating divide there as well, because on the one side, if you look at South Africa just political wise, or like political rhetoric wise and vibe wise, you as an outsider looking in, you would just see, oh well, they're parts of BRICS. They're very increasingly friendly with Russia and China and Iran. Of course, this country is realigning themselves, but then you zoom out a bit further and you look at the bigger picture, the economic picture, and then you realize that South Africa is still incredibly dependent on Europe and the United States for trade, but to a very large extent, which means that when it comes to specifically the bigger picture, I think the ANC very, if this was a real-time strategy game, the ANC would have loved to just realign with the click of a button with the BRICS countries, trade wise, military wise, political wise, but it's not that simple. South Africa's economy is heavily tied to the United States economy and the European economy, the economies of Europe, which means that that realignment is, again, even if there's a lot of will from the ANC side to want to make it happen, no amount of will is going to make that happen overnight or very quickly. They're trying their damnedest. They're trying their best to realign South Africa increasingly with the nations of China, Iran, Russia, all that entire sphere, but it's taking a lot of time. And the other thing that's also important to note is that the ANC is aware of this. They're not oblivious to the fact that South Africa is increasing, not in, South Africa is still heavily reliant on trade with the West, because they're trying to play this double personality, or the split personality, very schizophrenic of them. On the one side, they're very pro BRICS countries in their rhetoric abroad and their antics abroad. But then at the same time, when they do visit the United States, when they do visit European countries, they're also trying to smooth up everyone that they meet. They talk about this important relationship that we have with these countries, and we want to strengthen that relationship. They're not always openly taking one side, even though they have made some incredibly just reckless blunders the past few months, particularly to almost actively sabotaging the relationship between South Africa and the United States. The past 2 months can be described as nothing else than a diplomatic crisis between the Trump administration and the South African government. But I mean, there's a reason why. On the one side, you have literally the author of The Art of the Deal saying, come to the negotiating table, let's make a deal. And on the other side, you have the ANC, the art of the no compromise, the art of the double down, saying, no, we're not going to compromise on anything. In their words, we will not be bullied. Well, you're one of the smallest kids on the playground, and you're taking on a 6-foot child. You're going to get bullied. You can't just scream in his face, "I will not be bullied." You're gonna have to make another plan. So when it comes to the bigger picture there, to sum up, I think politically the ANC wish they could realign the country immediately with the click of a button with the BRICS sphere, but economically it's not going to happen overnight. Economically, South Africa for the foreseeable future is going to still be heavily tied to the United States and to Europe and the Western sphere.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.